Right, welcome back here on the program tonight, and I did promise you that we are going to have a conversation on the Health Amendment Bill 2023 that is being pushed by Women Representative Kirinyaga County, Njeri, who is with me here in studio to have that conversation and shed some light on this particular bill, what it means for you as a Kenyan citizen. All right, thank you so much. Engage us on our socials at Lookuptv, at Amwai Brian, across all social media. If you have a question, pass it across and we'll be able to throw it to the honorable member and we'll be able to answer that particular question. Also, your feedback is highly appreciated here on the Bottom Line. Let's start the show tonight. Karibu Mheshimiwa.
Thank you so much for having me. I can't believe I was here like 1 year ago.
I know.
I thought it's just yesterday, you know?
Well, time moves fast, that's what they say.
Yeah, it does.
And
especially in politics. Much so fast.
We're just about to get into the next election in just, you know, by the time we blink and open our eyes.
Imagine.
We'll be in 2027. And will you be vying again?
Yes, I will, definitely.
All right, we'll be getting into the politics of that later on.
Thank you.
But right now, we want to talk about the Health Amendment Bill 2023, which is something that you're pushing for, and I believe you're passionate about it. Let me just, you know, get to hear from you what it is and what you seek to achieve with it first.
First of all, I believe that every Kenyan, you know, according to Article 43 of the Constitution, has a right to the highest attainable healthcare. Article 28 also provides for the right to dignity. As an advocate, I've done very many cases in regard to people who have been, maybe perhaps their relatives or their loved ones have passed away and they have been detained in hospitals. I have also done cases of patients who've been detained. It is not because they are not willing to pay, it's because they are unable to pay. We know that, you know, the gap between the rich and the poor is very wide in Kenya, and a lot of people survive with less than $1. So I thought, I mean, what can I do as a member of parliament about this? I have seen the legislation that is available, and I know that it doesn't cater for that. I have gone to court time and time again to defend clients, to defend families, grieving families who just want to lay their loved ones to rest. And I thought, really, as a member of parliament, what can I do? So that is when I came up with these amendments. I'm seeking to amend Section 7 of the Health Act that we have in place, and also Section 12, just to ensure that we protect the person who is at the bottom of the economic scale in Kenya. Okay.
Now, from what you're explaining is that it comes from something that you've handled, which is a case. How was that for you, and what did it do to you that made you triggered and said, okay, this is something I have to push for?
It isn't actually one case. I've done several cases in regard to this. I remember the most emotive one I did was for a young man who had had an accident along the Thika Highway, and unfortunately had been admitted to hospital, HDU, but passed away, and accrued a bill of around over 4 million Kenya shillings. The family did not have any land or any property that it could have perhaps given a security to the hospital so that they can get the release of the young man's body. And we were in court for nearly 1 year. Every time I would go to court and I would, you know, get the results that perhaps were not friendly to the family, and I would have to call the mom and she was just wailing over the other side of the phone. So for me it was really very emotive as an advocate, and I thought, what can I do when I get to parliament about it, you know, besides the many other cases that I handled in regard to that. And I believe that we have around 15.5 million Kenyans who have paid for NHIF. Of those, only 43% are active members, which means around 6-point-something million. So you can imagine the population that we have in Kenya. Around 36% of Kenyans are averse or have a risk to various conditions, perhaps cancer, kidney issues, ward accidents and all that. And you find that at the end of the day, who is catering for that Kenyan? You know, we have discussed universal health coverage for so long, but we have not had the capacity to fully roll out to ensure that we protect the Kenyan who is at the bottom of the economic scale.
Okay.
A lot of people, perhaps members of parliament, have a health cover, right? So you can go to a private facility, get medical attention, and you're on your way home. And I'm not saying that let patients not pay bills. I'm saying let us look at this from a legal perspective. Yes.
All right. And you say it was a year when you're just in court and getting results that were not favorable to this particular family. So this is a year when you're trying to get a family to bury their loved one.
Yes.
And this is just not one family in the country. There's so many that go through that, because we've covered stories of people, bodies detained in hospital, in mortuaries, and all the bodies detained in mortuaries rather, and people detained in hospitals because they were unable to pay for this particular bill. But we come to the point where we do have hospitals that will say, okay, now this is money that is owed to us. How do we ensure that if we release this particular person because they have healed, maybe, but unable to raise this money at this particular moment, or this, by bad luck, this person that we're actually treating did die and we still have not gotten our money, how do we ensure that we get our money if at all we're going to release them?
I want to look at this from 3 perspectives. One is focusing on the legal situation that arises. Hospitals are not detention facilities. Okay. In the law, as prescribed, they are not allowed to detain either a dead body or a person who is alive and unable to pay their bill. Secondly, if you detain a dead body in a morgue, you can never, it can never pass off for profit. Okay. So you can never sell the dead body to say accrue the monies that or recover the monies that they accrued when they were undergoing treatment. So at the end of the day, we have to look at this from a legal perspective. Number 3, if you detain someone who has already recovered in hospital, let's say they spent around 10 days in the hospital, they're unable to pay the bill, you detain them for an extra 20, you're only adding the burden to the expenditure of the hospital, because they are consuming, they're taking up space, right? They need attention. They will be eating. So they are accruing a bill. First of all, they're not able to pay for the 10 days. You've added them an extra 10 days for which they're not able to pay. So we come to the aspect of that hospitals are also making money, right? They spend money on medicine and medical attention to these patients. So how do they recoup their funds? From a legal perspective, and we have seen these in other legislations. Uganda, our neighbors, have passed such laws. Philippines, India, Canada, UK, is that you can, 1, execute a promissory note, 2, you can sue the estate of the person who's deceased, and 3, you can also ask for security from the family in terms of perhaps property. Okay. I have said that I am targeting the Kenyan who is unable to pay, not the one who is unwilling to pay. Okay. Because at the end of the day, the government has to cater for those people. We did a fiscal analysis in regard to the cost, that implications that the government might run into. In terms of public amenities, around 6.7 billion per year. I mean, we're discussing this, and sometimes we say that, I remember the former president saying we were losing 3 billion a day to corruption. Why can't we cater for the people who really are unable to pay? I've also proposed a policy framework to ensure that if someone is unable to pay, there is a financial assessment that is done that is independent, and a board sits and then they say, surely this person is unable to pay, not unwilling. So we need to release the body so that they can lay their kin to rest, or we need to release them from hospital, because even if they stay and they're unable to pay, it is a fact. It is not something, it is not a point that is up for discussion. It is moot that if they're unable to pay, they're unable to pay. Okay. Yes.
All right. Now let me come to the, because it is multi-sectoral, I'd like to believe that, because there are stakeholders actually involved. In this particular bill, has there been any participation in terms of seeking, opinions from these particular stakeholders, people who run hospitals and all that, to just get to understand this particular bill?
The bill-making process is quite a lengthy process. So this stage was just for the committee, I first introduced the bill to the House in as soon as we got to Parliament, actually, last year. And then when I went before the Budget Committee, did my presentation, the bill was rejected. So once it was rejected, I pushed and had a sit down with the Speaker and wrote formally for a recommittal of the bill for pre-publication scrutiny by the committee. So that is why I went back there last week to beseech them. And I believe that it is now going to come to the floor of the House so that we can enrich the conversation, have the other stakeholders come in, propose whatever amendments, and we can even perhaps now see what policy framework we can agree on. So there is going to be time for other stakeholders, all stakeholders who are interested, even Kenyans, to be able to contribute and enrich the bill.
All right, because I was looking at the possibility of uproar from the medical fraternity saying, okay,
definitely, I know it is going to be, you know, but it's something that the High Court has ruled that you cannot detain a patient or a dead body. It is something legal for me. It is not something that we need to even argue about. You know those things that you say this is illegal, then we can discuss the consequences of it later. Yes.
Let's get to the fines that you are proposing in this particular bill. You're saying 2 million or 5 years in prison. Why that?
Because for every law we have to have a punitive measure. It is just to act as a deterrent. Because at the end of the day, you find that if I go to court today, I am definitely going to win the case eventually. But this is 8 months down the line, 1 year down the line, for a family that's just waiting to lay their kin to rest. Sometimes you find that most of these families, because I am elected in Kirinyaga County, I have to deal with so many of such matters. You find that these families have done harambes for months. The rural setup is not a place where people will come and bring in 20,000, 200,000, 100,000. Sometimes you find the bills run into millions of Kenya shillings. The community has exhausted their resources. They have been doing harambes day in, day out. So at the end of the day, it is just frustrating for the Kenyan who is at the bottom of the economic scale. This is not legislation that is going to cater for the people who are able to afford medical care in Kenya. It is going to cater for the percentage of people who are really unable to pay, and they do not even have property to be auctioned, because at the end of the day you wonder, I mean, will you auction the person or the family members so that the bill can be settled? Because if they really cannot pay, it is just a fact. It is not a matter that we can say someone perhaps in Kibra, right? They do not have any property to them or to their name. Land, whether it is movable property, they do not have any intellectual property. They just want to lay their kin to rest, you know? So we really have to look at this from a humane perspective.
Okay. Now, my next question is about what this bill actually, when you look at it, what effects is it going to have, both for, you know, the healthcare system in the country and the people that are going to benefit from it?
I believe this will ease the burden of the many Kenyans who are suffering from being just a neighbor, or rather from being poor. And being poor is not a crime, Brian. And I'm glad that you also mentioned that you have highlighted very many cases of people who are unable to lay their relatives to rest just because they have a pending bill in the hospital. So it will mean, it will bring a sort of reprieve for the families and the many Kenyans who have been affected by this. For the healthcare system, of course, it will be a tough walk. And I know it is not an easy path to take, but it is the right path to take. And if our neighbors, you know, countries like Uganda have passed that into law. For me, and from where I stand, it is the right thing to do for the Kenyans. And, you know, we are pushing for universal health coverage. So I believe that a lot of Kenyans will be able to get medical attention at the behest of the government. Okay.
Now, one thing that we can actually look at, you know, maybe some people might actually use the law, exploit the law in different ways. How does this bill then ensure that how do you ensure that it's actually implemented fairly and does not lead to unintended consequences maybe?
That is why I have said that we will have a policy framework, because I have insisted that my target is for the Kenyan who is unable to pay, not the one who is unwilling, because of course we know people would want to exploit it, and it's a perspective I have looked at. Okay. So before anyone is released from, say, the hospital, or before a body is released from the hospital, there will be a financial assessment of the person's property and the family. Are they able to pay? Are they able to pay a certain amount? And then from there, after the financial assessment, then the person, the patient or the body can be released to the family to lay to rest. So it's not something that I am expecting that will fail to work, because it has worked in other jurisdictions, and all laws must be progressive. And the work of the legislature is to complement the judiciary. The judiciary has already made it clear that it is illegal to detain a dead body or a patient who has recovered in hospital, because hospitals are not detention facilities. So we just need to ensure that we seal all the loopholes. Of course, we can never seal them 100%, but I know it is a step in the right direction.
Okay, I'd like to bring this into to you, because healthcare in the country is mostly devolved. It's a devolved function. Do you believe county governments are going to, and even the Senate itself, just look at it and say, no, this is something that we need to do?
This bill is actually going to go to the Senate because of the devolved healthcare system that we have, and of course for public hospitals, the government I am proposing that the government sets aside some funds to cushion them from the extra expenditure and all that. So I know that it will be going to the Senate, and I am hoping that it will be supported, because I will be rallying all Kenyans to push their representatives in the various positions to ensure that we pass this law. Okay.
In the aspect, and I believe this might actually come maybe as we get to debate this bill further, maybe when it gets to the floor of the House and stakeholders come in. But you see, some people might actually use it, maybe hospitals say, by the way, there's a bill about a family that is unable to pay. Can we now, because now we do believe that maybe the government might come in and pay for this particular individual who is unable to pay for their bill. Maybe someone is dead, or maybe they're just they got healed but are unable to pay. So if they get released and they demand, now we did release this particular person, could you now come in and pay us and maybe double the amount or something like that? Is that a likelihood that could happen?
That is exploitation. Yeah. In this day and age, and it's very unfortunate that we do not have any legislation in place in Kenya cushioning Kenyans from exploitation by hospitals. Brian, if you go to hospital today, say you're admitted for 3-4 days, right? By the time you're getting released, you will find that you have this list of things apparently that you have used at the hospital. A lot of Kenyans cannot even grasp what is written. You'll just see medical names written there. We do not have, India has legislation cushioning their citizens from exploitation by hospitals. Unfortunately, we do not have any. Of course, I know that we will have a bit of hiccups here and there, but what I am expecting is that we can see it from the perspective of the people that I am targeting with these amendments. And I know with certainties that, of course, we are going to have a lot of issues with the private facilities. And I have also proposed, and it is available in law, that say I have attended to you as a medical practitioner and I have discharged you, that I can sue you to recover the monies that you owe to me. And of course the private facilities will bring the perspective of, oh, they can't be funded by the government, right? But we intend for this law to apply equally to private and public facilities, for the fact that sometimes the private facilities abuse the same. And there's no provision for them to come now start claiming from the government. And of course there are concerns that have been raised as to whether now they will refuse to admit patients, but it is also a proposal in the amendment that a hospital or a medical facility cannot refuse to admit a patient on the basis that perhaps they have done an assessment, they're not able to pay the bill, or they feel that they do not want to attend to them. You remember the case of baby Travis, right? The mother said that the child died because she could not raise a mere 20,000. To a lot of many Kenyans, that is a lot of money. To some people, it is, it is pocket change. And that is why I'm saying this law is targeting the bottom of the economic scale Kenyan, because we really have to cater for everyone, and laws must apply equally. When we have provisions in the Constitution saying that every person has a right to health care, how do we implement that? By having legislation in place, subsidiary legislation in Parliament in place to ensure that we support the Constitution of Kenya 2010.
Okay. Now before I come to the universal health coverage, there's this aspect of, I did when I was going through your bill, where someone is getting into the hospital and they have an emergency, because that is actually something that actually gets to happen most of the time.
Yes.
You're told, okay, before we get to attend to you, you need to pay.
Yeah.
Could you speak on that kindly?
I think it's a very unfortunate situation. And I have highlighted the case of baby Travis. It was an emergency. I mean, that is a child who had a fork djembe lodged in the head, and it is something that, I mean, from where I stand, it should not even have been a discussion as to whether the mother needs to raise an amount of money before the child can be admitted. Yeah. And for me, I think we have just really degraded in terms of social behavior. And we have become capitalists at the very core of it, at the expense of human life. So for me, it is just a moral question and a legal question. Right. That, you know, first you save the human life, because that is the oath that doctors have taken, and then everything else comes later. Because, I mean, if you lose a human life while debating and demanding for payment, what is the essence of it all? Okay.
Now, Njeri Maina there, Women Representative, Kirinyaga County. We do want to take a short break. We'll be back in a moment with this conversation. Continue engaging us on our socials. At Amoy Brian, that is on Twitter, at Lookuptv. The hashtag we are using tonight is this, the Bottomline KE. We are also live on Facebook and on YouTube, and I do welcome your feedback on those particular social platforms. Do tell us where you are watching us from and what questions you have for this particular conversation, and also just your comments and feedback. We'll be back in a moment.
Infinity Industrial Park is one of the largest private industrial parks located along Eastern Bypass, Nairobi, which provides modern infrastructure for smooth operations for industries and business enterprises. Infinity Industrial Park offers world-class amenities and facilities with wide roads, a police station, a power substation, fire station, public transport stage, hospital, and shopping mall. In addition, Infinity Industrial Park also offers CCTV cameras, 24-hour private armed security patrol, sewer, water, fiber optic cable, and 3-phase power connection, added to public utility, canteen, and dining areas. Sail on the golden opportunity to invest in Infinity Industrial Park fully serviced warehouses at a special price of 3,569 Kenyan shillings per square foot. For more inquiries, visit our website infinityindustrialpark.com.
We got good news for you. You have the opportunity to win up to 100,000 shillings cash money from Kuza Bees. It's easy to participate. Just open M-Pesa, Lipa na M-Pesa, account number 825454, account name right, Lookuptv, then deposit 99 shillings only. Remember, the more you participate, the more the chances of winning. Hurry now and be one of the winners of the Daily Cash Awards.
This game is BCLB licensed and is not open to persons under the age of 18 years. Play responsibly.
All right, we are back here on the program. This is the Bottomline KE. We are having a conversation around the Health Amendment Bill 2023 that is being pushed by Kirinyaga Women Representative Njeri Maina, who is with me here in studio to shed some light on that particular bill. And we've talked extensively about this one. And Mheshimiwa, let me get to the issue of the universal healthcare, because that's what it's, we've rolled that out. We're seeking to ensure that each and every person in the country gets to access to health. How does this bill get to align with the broader picture and with this particular move?
I think, Brian, like I have said before, that this is complementing the decisions that have been made in regard to detention of patients or bodies by hospitals. And for me, this protects the Kenyan who is at the low scale of the economy. And what universal health coverage seeks to achieve is ensure that every Kenyan has access to medical attention, and this will just bolster that and protect that Kenyans who do not have the financial capacity to cater for medical attention. It is not a crime, or it is not something that is puts them at a disadvantage. So in terms of promoting universal health care coverage, it will also ensure that the laws are in tandem with the policies that the government is making to ensure that we cater and we implement Article 43 of the Constitution in regard to access to healthcare services, because I am proposing that medical facilities do not demand for monies before attending to patients, that they do not detain patients, and that they also do not detain dead bodies. So this is just going to complement us ensuring that we cater for the mwananchi at the bottom of the economic scale in terms of healthcare. Because at the end of the day, I mean, the people who can afford, this is not an issue for them, it is not a problem for them. The people who have perhaps social circles who can raise, you know, 5 million in 2 weeks or overnight, it is not an issue for them. But the mwananchi, the common mwananchi, who UHC wants to cater for, it is a major problem for them to even raise perhaps 20,000-30,000 just to get medical coverage.
Okay, let me get back to, because this is something, this is the second time you actually went to the Budgets and Appropriation Committee, right? And the first time you went and you said it was rejected. What did you do different this time to make sure that it actually gets to see the light of day?
What I did is I proposed the financial assessment, so that this law is not abused. I obviously also made a very impassioned plea. You know, I said, I'm back again, you guys. I am really back because I really want to see this to fruition. Because even in between the time it was rejected and now I have dealt with like over 20 cases. And it can really be overwhelming for these families. You know, I have had the first-hand experience of it, and perhaps maybe to other people, when you're telling them, it's sort of like a narration. It's like a story because they cannot relate to it. But I have had the first-hand experience of going to court to ensure that families lay their loved ones, or going to court to ensure that someone who has been detained in hospital has been released. It is not because these people want to. Nobody wants to wait 8 months to lay their kin to rest. You know, Africans have an attachment to interring the remains of their loved ones. I do not think that anybody wants to go over a stressful legal process to just lay their kin to rest. So really most of these people and everyone that I have assisted, it is not a matter of won't pay. It's just that they are not able to pay. Even if hata ukiwashika uwainamisha hivi, you know, unless then you auction you auction them. They are really not able to pay. So
there's the willingness to pay, it's just that we do not have the money now?
Yes, but I can tell you right now we have, there's a case I'm dealing with in Kirinyaga County of a young family below 25 years. They have not been able to lay their child to rest for 2 months of a pending bill. You know, I have had negotiations in between with the hospital. I really hope we close it by next week so that they're able to lay their child to rest. It is so painful for the family members. Yes.
And when you just mentioned that, I can just picture and just try to imagine and put myself in their shoes when you have someone that, because even the period of mourning itself is being prolonged. Knowing that there's someone somewhere, our kin, somewhere that has not been laid to rest, because it's a period of mourning, you're just mourning.
It is an absolute nightmare for the families.
In these cases that you've got to handle, what is the highest bill that you've gotten to see and say, okay, maybe how much money do they owe the hospital?
8 million.
8 million?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So you can imagine from a rural setup, expecting, you know, the community to raise 8 million, and they have quite a number of these cases. And I can tell you, Kirinyaga County especially, it is either the second or the first highest ranked in terms of cases of cancer. And we have so many healthcare issues, perhaps maybe from the lifestyle, the farming techniques, and the chemicals that we're using, because it's something that we need to figure out as a community. There's so many, you know, and they're even overwhelming for me as a member of parliament, and I'm certain even my colleagues can relate to that. You know, in one weekend you'll find that you've been called to over, for me it's a county, over like 80 harambes just for fundraisers in terms of health, pending health bills, you know. I mean, even if you give 10,000 per harambe, that's 800,000 per day. Of course, it's not sustainable in any rational means. So it is something that we really just need to deal with through legislation.
These are ambitious so that we actually get to see people not going through all this.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about maybe timeline, because this could be the last question on matters this particular bill. The timeline, because I do believe it's a legislative process.
Yes.
But this is something that you've dealt with with the people that you're representing, and you've seen that, and you're just like, we need to get to the bottom of this and get to solve this as quick as we can. When you look at it, how quick would you like it to go for you?
The first time when I got into parliament, I thought things work so fast and so quickly. Yeah. And I remember I put in a motion, and it has this lengthy process. And so in terms of timelines, I really hope that within an year, I'm hoping that within the next financial year, we will be done with this. But you know, in between we have these breaks. We have government-sponsored bills which are priority for the House. We have many pending legal issues. Yeah. So I'm really hoping that it doesn't drag on. But we are at the publication process. So the committee is going to do a response, an advisory response to the Speaker, and then we can have the bill publicized so that we can proceed with the first reading. So I really hope, I will really push. I really just want to do this because I started it as soon as I landed in Parliament. It was like my maiden legislation, you know. So I really want to push this because I know many families in Kenya are really pegging their hopes on this legislation. Okay,
now it's a good one, but this is the thing. When you look at Parliament, because most of the time we see debating on bills and sometimes we see opposition, is it something that could actually get to be opposed? Because why would it be opposed? You know, if at all some members of Parliament get to oppose a bill, how do we convince them that, by the way, this one needs to be working for the people?
You know, I will just, I'll come up with a trick. You know, I'll talk to, I'll be tracking the bill, and I will be tracking the members who are supporting it and the members who are opposing it, and with what reason. Because at the end of the day, members of Parliament are representatives of the people. So if the people have a problem, you are supposed to ensure that you come up with a solution to it. So I would really be interested in any member of Parliament who does not support this, even from a legal perspective, and it is purely a legal perspective. Okay,
because that's the thing. Just talking about opposition when it comes to this particular bill.
I expect it will cut across, you know, the
political divide.
And that I will get support across board, because I know this is a major concern for Kenyans.
And I remember the first time there was quite a good number of support, especially from members of the National Assembly, who were actually saying if it comes, it should have passed yesterday.
Yes.
I remember reading something from Betty Maina, who is the women representative, I believe, Muranga.
Yes.
And she actually did say that. Now, let's go back to, as we wind up on this conversation, let's get to your region. How is it working as a women representative for Muranga? It's been a year now in elective politics.
Kirinyaga. You know, Betty and I share the two last names. So I always find it sometimes very frustrating that I have to explain to people. Sometimes they even congratulate me. You know, they're like, "Oh, we saw something on the papers." And I'm like, "No, that isn't me." You know. But I understand it's it's very tricky. You know, and we are neighbors, so really, no offense taken. It has been humbling and challenging at the same time, you know. Recently I had an attack that was politically instigated, and I think I just came to the realization of the political terrain in Kenya, and the undercuts and the dark underbelly of politics. So for me, it's a learning process. I really appreciate. The bigger picture is that I really appreciate that I really get to be in this space where I impact on people's lives positively, because that has been the motivation from day one for vying for this position. You know, I have a program in Kirinyaga County called Tupange Kesho, where we empower women. We've distributed over 5 million to over 50 women's groups. We also sponsor needy children, full scholarships. We're educating over 500 children who are orphans and PWDs in Kirinyaga County. From Form 1 to Form 4. Okay. So when I see that, really my heart just, it's at peace, you know. It is the cost we pay for politics, and I'm just glad that, and really humbled that I get to do that for the people who really need the kind of politician that I bring to the table.
Okay. And I do remember, because we were covering your story when actually that was going on in Kirinyaga, there's a time you actually were distributing, giving bursaries, I do believe, and you are doing that on the side of the road instead of, because there's the place where you're supposed to hold that particular event, you're being locked out. Yeah,
it's very interesting, you know. I find politicians very interesting. I think people get drunk with power, you know, and they forget that power is transitional. It is going to change hands at the end of the day. You know, you're powerful today, tomorrow you're not. And it's quite unfortunate. I actually cannot give bursaries in any county facility, county ran or control facility in Kirinyaga County. You know, they just did, they just did a letter the other day. I was just looking at it and I didn't know whether to laugh or to get angry, you know. Okay. And, you know, and I'm not the person who gets the bursaries. I'm not the person who gets the services that I provide for the people of Kirinyaga County. You know, it is the people of Kirinyaga County who are beneficiaries. And oftentimes politicians forget that supreme power belongs and vests in the people. So of course those are the challenges of being a young politician who's trying to make a headway. But I mean, I always tell people I am very unapologetic about creating space for myself and ensuring that I execute my mandate as given to me by the people of Kirinyaga County.
So right now, if you needed to serve the people of Kirinyaga County, maybe giving them bursaries, you cannot do that in a public facility?
I would have to actually hire a place.
Where is this coming from? Where is this division? Because at some point, people will look at county leaders and say, okay, we need to see you working together for the betterment of the people of this particular region. Why is there so much division between you and the county management?
I think when I first got in, I was very naive. You know, I'm new, I'm fresh in politics. And I think, well, people here work together, and it unraveled pretty fast that there are very many competing interests in politics, you know. And most of the time you find that politicians who are outgoing want to control the politics of the county, forgetting that at the end of the day, and I think people should learn from the former president, you know, you can never control how people vote or how they want to vote or who they want to vote in. You know, you might pour in your resources, you might try to mobilize here and there, but at the end of the day, people will really vote for the person that they want. So I think that is where the sort of conflict comes in, because if I told my adversaries to pinpoint something, they have actually absolutely nothing to pinpoint, you know. But then of course I'm in this space and I seem to be making a headway, and sometimes, you know, even the threat you pose is disproportionate to what people think you pose, you know. So I think it is just an issue of understanding.
Fear of the unknown.
Yes.
Let me ask, is there a point where...
Is it called FOMO? Fear of the... Fear of the unknown.
Fear of the unknown. So now this is the thing. Oh, FOMO is fear of missing out or something.
Oh, yeah. Because I'm like, I know the shorthand to that word.
So this is the thing. Is there a point where we are going to see maybe the relationship between you and the governor of the county of Kirinyaga mended? Do you possibly see something like that?
I really don't know, you know, because I think, you know, in politics and in ideal you know, the reality in politics is that they're not permanent enemies or permanent friends, you know. But I think sometimes people cross personal lines, and it's a bit hard. I would say it would be such a tall order, because I feel personally that personal lines are crossed by the time someone is organizing for an attack that it wasn't an attack that was coming to say hello to me or to leave me in a good state, right? So I think for me, there were major personal lines which were crossed, but I think you never say never in politics. But I think that would be a very tall order.
Okay. Yeah. Now, let me just ask you this final question. This is somebody that, politically speaking, in the country is, you know, revered, somebody respected. And this is somebody that, someone like you who is young in politics and just coming up, would like maybe to step to that particular level of politics that she's been at. When this happens to you and you look at it and you say it is coming from that particular side, how does that make you feel as a young politician coming into the scene?
Very unfortunate, you know. It was very unfortunate because I believe that the older or the people who've been there in politics should be leading the way and actually holding our hands and saying, you know, this is how things get done in politics. But when you find that they're the ones now fighting the younger politicians, it is a very unfortunate situation. But for me, I'm very strong-willed, you know, and I believe I have always fought for whatever I believed in and represented in life. So for me, it's not something that was surprising, because I think at the end of the day, you really have to go after what you want, irrespective of whether people are supporting you or not. It would of course be ideal if she were, you know, holding my hand and showing me around in politics, but if she doesn't, I mean, I am here, I will fight my way out and around, because I believe that where there is a will, there is a way. Okay.
I know it's too early to ask that, but 2027 is coming and you are growing politically, you are big right now. What position are you looking at? Coming back as a county women representative? Or that, now that there will be no one defending the seat in that particular county, you'll be actually eyeing a bigger seat? Because when we were covering your story, I think there was one member of county assembly that said maybe you could be eyeing to be the next, you know, county chief.
I think, you know, I need to come up with a laugh, you know, that when people ask that question, I'm like, ha, 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 ha. I do, the first plan, rather plan A, is to defend my seat, right? But like I've said, there are no certainties in politics. So maybe perhaps that might be changing in the next 2-3 years. And I never say never in politics. So for me, it's just about the timing. Is it right? But my priority is to defend my seat as a county MP Kirinyaga. You know, there's an option of going for single constituency. There's an option of going to Senate, option of being a governor. I mean, there are all these opportunities, or serving as a PS, all these opportunities. So at the end of the day, really, I am just doing and putting my best foot forward. And I will be here. What you can be certain of is that I will be in this space. Whatever it takes, I will be here
to cover that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my last question has to do, tomorrow is International Girl Child Day. And I don't know what you have to say to every young woman watching you tonight as we look forward to commemorating tomorrow.
It's very full circle for me. And every time I get to see young people, I'm really passionate about just imparting them and telling them that, you know, they can be anything that they want to be. And sometimes, or oftentimes, you find that we think, well, you have to have a godfather. I didn't have a godfather when I ventured into politics. Actually, the president would come and he wasn't even certain that I was actually going to go to the very end of the ballot. You know, we had a conversation some time back in State Lodge. And it was just very weird for him, you know, finding this young girl, and you know, my stature, I'm not big, you know, politics you have to push and shove around. So I really want to tell the young girls, whatever it is that you dream of being, there are absolutely no limits for you as long as you have the focus, the consistency, and the discipline. You can get where you want to be, and you can do that in the right and dignified manner.
All right. Njeri Maina, that is a message to the girl child as we look forward to celebrating the International Day of the Girl. That is tomorrow. All right, thank you so much, Mheshimiwa.
Thank you for having me.
And I do hope we do this again. Sindo?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
we should be making it regular.
Yes, yes.
So that we don't say get to next year and we're like, it's
I
been
know,
a
and
year
I'm
again.
like, it's been a year.
Yeah, wow. Okay, so thank you so much for your time and making time for the program tonight. This has been the bottom line. Sadly, we are out of time. I'd like to go through your feedback, but yeah, I know. Listen, I'll do that next time. My name is Brian Amwai. Do have yourselves a lovely night. Let's do this again next Tuesday on the Bottom Line KE. Good night.
We value your feedback and welcome your complaints about our programming and operations. Feel free to get in touch with us through 0700 893